let's get into the dirty details of one of Blake Lively's foremost lawyers, Ezra Hudson. And before we discuss this, I do want to say that I think what's kind of sad here is that Blake Lively does not seem to have any ethical people either working for her or supporting her side. It's just apparently all people embroiled in scandals, sketchy companies, and nonprofits. It's people involved in even potentially serious criminal activity from what I see. Has she ever had one remotely normal or ethical person supporting her? Let me know, guys. I'm not aware of one. P.S. I'm so glad that I've made money in my career in normal ways, not by making major ethics violations and things like that. But anyway, so there are seemingly major issues with this lawyer, Ezra Hudson, and her involvement in various nonprofits, the nonprofits themselves, as well as the fact that Ezra served as a board member for the California Women's Law Center, a nonprofit that filed an amicus brief in favor of Blake Lively while Ezra was working for Manat, which was representing Blake Lively in her case. But Ezra did not disclose this major conflict of interest. This is a huge issue and a major ethics violation. Ask two lawyers to discuss this somewhat, by the way. Anyway, we will get into this whole situation, but beforehand, let me read to you what Ezra considers to be some of her greatest achievements, apparently, in her career. Just to be clear, it makes me think of the people who work for baby seal killer companies, but I digress. The fact that Ezra would brag about any of these says so much about her, in my opinion. I realize that this was her job, but she did not have to take this job. So she defeated the certification of a 1,000-employee class action suit in an off-the-clock overtime and meal and rest break case for a specialty finance provider. Glad to know you are seemingly preventing those people from getting meals, rest breaks, and overtime at work, apparently. What a lovely person you are, Ezra. Just a really upstanding person. Developed a creative defense strategy for a national insurance company in a statewide class misclassification wage and hour action on behalf of thousands of insurance agents, resulting in full dismissal and no liability. Now, if it's on behalf of thousands of agents, I'm pretty sure there's a major problem here. Again, how lovely to know that Ezra helped this very rich company, probably, from having to apparently properly classify workers. The horror of this company being possibly held accountable and having to follow the law for thousands of workers, which it appeared that they didn't have to do here, as far as I can see. She represented a major entertainment company in two mediations of claims brought by former employees. The final settlements were less than the severance offers provided to the employees at the time of their separation. So that's just lovely. So these people got less than the severance they were owed at the time after they filed legal complaints. Just take a look at everything else. And I realize that Ezra is trying to seemingly appeal to these big, probably unethical companies and public figures, in my opinion. But let's be realistic. Anyone taking these kinds of cases where masses of people are going up against their employer for seemingly skirting the law around things as basic as meal and rest breaks and more just raises major red flags in my book. Anyway, let's get into some more of what Ezra has done. So as discussed, Ezra was on the board for the California Women's Law Center while simultaneously being paid by Blake Lively through her private law firm, Manat, Phelps, and Phillips. This dual role was not disclosed to the court, the public, or the IRS from what I see in the amicus brief that was filed by the CWLC. So this organization failed to disclose that their board member, Ezra, had a direct financial and professional relationship with the plaintiff, Blake Lively, in the case for which they filed this amicus brief. This would seemingly be a material conflict of interest under IRS laws, California charity law, and basic legal ethics. It seems to violate both nonprofit disclosure law and legal ethics under California's rules of professional conduct, including Rule 1.7, conflict of interest between current clients, organizations, and private parties. This also seems to involve the use of a nonprofit for a client's benefit, since Ezra seemingly used her influence on the CWLC board to get the organization to file an amicus brief that directly benefited her private client, Blake, which is a conflict of interest under Rule 1.11, special roles in organizations, a misuse of a public interest entity for private gain, and a potential breach of fiduciary duty to both the CWLC and the legal system. Violations could also be triggered under Rule 8.4, conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation, or Rule 3.3, duty of candor toward the tribunal, including misleading omissions. Lawyers are officers of the court, to be clear, and have a duty to avoid actions that undermine trust in the judicial process, use the courts deceptively or for retaliation, blur lines between public advocacy and private PR, lawfare. Ezra's actions appear to do exactly some of these things, possibly as parts of a strategic PR/legal campaign to suppress criticism of a public figure using a nonprofit. The California Attorney General oversees nonprofit governance through the Registry of Charitable Trusts. They can take action if a board member benefited privately from a nonprofit's activity, a nonprofit misrepresented its purpose or misused funds to promote a private agenda, a nonprofit acted as a front for litigation or PR activity controlled by a party in the case, such as Blake Lively. CWLC filing this brief without disclosure is likely a violation of the Attorney General's standards for charitable behavior and may warrant investigation. I recommend people file complaints with the state bar and with the California Attorney General in regards to these major issues. And now let's discuss more of the issues with the California Women's Law Center itself, as well as potentially Ezra's conduct while being a board member for them. What's going on here, in my opinion, is that this organization may have functioned more like a legal club or PR vehicle than a true service nonprofit. So now Ezra Hudson is listed as a board member on the governing body consistently across multiple years, including 2023 as well, and 2024. She does not appear to receive direct compensation, but the organization does not provide any conflict of interest disclosures or related party transactions that could mention her that I could find. This lack of transparency could be a red flag, especially if she is involved in legal matters such as Blake Lively subpoenas, where there could be crossover. Now, salaries and compensation for this organization have risen dramatically. 2020 was around $442,000 to 2023, $623,000. This is over 65% of total expenses, which is an unusually high concentration. Meanwhile, the number of employees has remained small, 9 to 10, indicating potentially inflated pay or overcompensation. They were also not reporting grants or direct assistance to individuals or other nonprofits for, I believe, all the years. So all of their expenses apparently go to internal operations. Despite claiming advocacy and litigation work, the group doesn't appear to fund any external legal aid directly. Fundraising expenses jumped to around $81,000 in 2023, up from $69,000 the prior year, despite relatively flat revenue. This kind of inefficient spending could signal financial mismanagement or self-dealing. There were also surging liabilities without apparent explanation. So liabilities nearly tripled from 2022 to 2023. 2022 was $340,000. 2023, sorry, I have a typo in here, but there was no accompanying Schedule L or explanation for this increase that I could find, which raises red flags to me. This could indicate hidden debt arrangements, legal settlements, or deferred compensation issues. There was also asset accumulation with seemingly very little community impact. CWLC reported nearly $5 million in total assets in 2024, yet provides no direct legal aid or financial assistance to women and girls that I could find. That's lovely. This apparent asset hoarding with increasing liabilities and flat revenue, from what I see, suggests either hoarding donations or positioning for other purposes, not community reinvestment. There were also these legal and PR ties that could be conflicts of interest, as we've talked about to some extent. Ezra has been working for Blake Lively. If CWLC resources, legal or staff time, were used towards these activities while the nonprofit claims to operate independently, that would be a potential misuse of exempt resources. However, there is no disclosure of legal case involvement or litigation outcomes in the filings, which is odd for a law firm that touts litigation as a mission pillar. I have to wrap up this video because we're almost at the 10-minute mark, but I will be making a part 2 most likely.